The basics to have a language model are resources.
Yeah.
What do you do if you don't have the resources and you have a nation to govern?
Sure.
I think that we will become a little bit more physical. I think the next generation is probably going to...
So it's trad life as opposed to trad wife.
I think that's right. Oh, I like that.
This episode is brought to you by EFG Hermes One, your one app for investing in more than 35 stock markets worldwide. Welcome again to What I Did Next from A&T Media. I'm Malak Fuad. Last week, I sat down with tech ethicist and innovator Dr. Mona Hamdy, and we unpacked the different threads that have led her to become an expert voice in the intersection between technology and human dignity. That's where we're picking up the conversation today to understand the future of AI. You know who is similar to you, and he was the one who really made me understand this on a granular level, and I mentioned that too when we spoke, is Mustafa Suleyman of Microsoft.
Right.
You know, and he was like you. He studied philosophy at college, right?
Yes, he did.
So
that's a huge compliment.
But it's a wonderful grounding.
I carry that into, if I think of any technology as something that humans have created, I know that it will be things that we've done as we are sort of trying to make sense of the world around us. All technology is built on algorithms that humans created while observing their natural world. We created the algorithms that show us how
we want to live.
Swarms, like drones swarm or neural networks combine. Because we looked at how ants make anthills or birds. How do birds fly in a flock and not slam into each other? Humans watched that and created an algorithm to decipher that. And from those optimization algorithms, we get really beautiful math and really beautiful systems that show us how this network runs.
So, based on what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, our science is based on faith. In a way, right?
I believe so, because I believe that if you look at all of the world's faith traditions, science was an outcropping of their worship.
Exactly.
They were doing it to understand what they were given by their creator. And amplify it. Even in our Arab culture.
Especially
the lighthouse and vanguard for the world. It was our honor. And that was across all religions that were in this part of the world, pluralistically invited to express their devotion by inquiry and understanding, right? So much so that it lit the world.
Absolutely.
And we always talk about that. And I feel like we are at that place again.
Really?
Yes.
That's the phase you feel we're in.
Absolutely. We see some of the largest programs around some of this most innovative technology either being housed or funded by our part of the world. If that is not a great sign and a great responsibility to really have a thoughtful dialogue about what we get to contribute in this time capsule of technology as a culture, as a part of the world, as a civilization, I don't know what else is.
Yeah.
And we get to really say, this is who we are. And it's okay to not look like any other part of the world. In fact, it's important.
Absolutely.
You have to retain that difference.
Because that's what humans are.
That's what humans are. That's right. If you think of each part of the world with its unique culture, you know that the way that you act in Cairo is not the way that you greet someone in Casablanca. It's not the same way that you'll greet someone in Calabasas. There's different ways of being. Those are all unique data sets to that unique culture in that unique time. Like we wouldn't in 11th century Cairo say hello to someone the way that we would in 21st century Cairo. It's different, right? Like in Nizam, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that in Fustat. That kind of thing. So those data sets, if you think about where we might be in 100 years' time, are very valuable because they are different, not because they match. Data sets
interesting.
Does that make sense?
Of course.
That the more unique, the more niche your data is, the more valuable it will be. So it's our job as a culture.
I want to understand a little bit more your concept of these 5 pillars.
Oh yeah.
Of what is the 5th industrial revolution, right? You termed them as community, creativity, vitality, story, and soul.
That's right.
So that is coming out of this understanding of religion.
Yes. I think religion and all of the ways that humans embody their experience on this earth. I come from a tradition where I'm very anchored in the idea that just like arts and sciences, that you were given the gift of creation, gave you a body to house your soul for a really short time. And that through recorded history, we've kind of been saying that as a civilization, as a species, we've been saying, human, this is what matters, right? And you can say that what we might call our religious texts, whether that's, in the Abrahamic faiths or pre or post, this is sort of the refrain through that, is that I embody this experience through this body, and in that is housed something immortal and eternal. So my question, as we build technological and technical infrastructures that extend our physical space, right? So we are here in this place, but when you're on your phone, you're interacting in a digital world. And when you're interacting even with non-humans, everybody's using some sort of agent or an AI language model to interact with the world. You're digitally extending your reach of your physical body into this digital technical space. So what I'm saying is that at that place, at the digital forefront of the rest of human history, what parts of us that we were given by our creator, by our culture, by our part of the world, must we inhabit and embody and encode into what comes next?
And how do we do that? This is like the $1,000,000 question, right?
Very carefully.
Very,
No,
very
I'm
carefully.
kidding. No,
But
we do it. We have to do it thoughtfully, for sure.
I mean,
and
everyone I know who's working in the AI space, who are sensible and who are responsible, are talking about the necessity for regulation, the necessity for putting the brakes on, making sure that we're doing things slowly, incrementally. But how do you come together and make sure that everyone is on board with this? Because you can have these rogue people or rogue states that can just pop up and say, no, I want to jump ahead. I want to leapfrog. I want to be the leader in this field. And it unleashes some really crazy demons.
Right. So a few things here.
Yeah.
Whether or not we move fast or slow, our technology is and will only get faster.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yes.
Also, I'm a really big believer in the fact that our market system today makes most of the decisions about how our technology is created and evolves.
Right.
Which means that all of this technology that you see today has people who are incentivized by motives and inclinations that are different than societies would or cultures might about what is valuable and important to them. They are very naturally opposed to each other.
So do you mean by that the individual versus the collective?
No,
not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but I mean that you have technology that's being created by people who want to make money. Yeah. But you have societies that are saying we should be making technology that is created to fill in the blank. And we have not yet clearly filled in the blank about what we want this technology to do.
But you say we.
Yes.
The we is subjective. The we that happens from the US is different to the we from the Middle East. And that's a space we're going to discuss in a lot of detail, I know. It's different to the we in China. It's different to the we in Russia, Europe, etc. They don't have a similar approach.
Right.
So when we talk about a we of society, what area of the world are we talking about?
So I would say, first of all, that we anywhere has not clearly articulated a framework, a vision for the future.
Okay.
We have policies. We say things like AI is going to get really good. All the jobs are going to be gone, and you're going to get something like a universal basic income, some kind of allowance for being human. That's a policy.
Right.
That is not a framework or a vision or a philosophy about what we want this technology to do. You have language models. What do you want them to do for your species? What? Take away all the cool jobs? Make stuff faster? Make more money? Cool. We, anywhere, I don't think has really adequately solved that. And our technology will be able to do all of those things, Malak. The question is, what do we want it to do? It is now, and what it does is an ethical question.
Yeah.
It's not a technical one.
And it's not a regulatory one, I guess. Or that comes later.
Right. Well, regulate, it's interesting. I'll say a few things here about like what regulations are.
Because I'm thinking in terms of, sorry to cut you off, like when the internet really became a global,
Yes.
and you had the ICANN, right? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
So that's like the regulatory body around the world.
That's right. But this is a very good example because that was the world saying this should connect us.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be owned by
Exactly.
anyone, and it should have these criteria.
Exactly.
And then you see what happened after, like when you have a sort of private interest in the internet, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a brilliant example because it shows that we've done this before.
Right. But this is very different, Mona. Because the transformative element of AI, and I don't know if it's, sci-fi stuff, but the fact that it can mimic the human condition, the human experience, means that we're talking about a very different beast to the internet, right?
I mean, it is very different, but you have a technical analog. You have a technical analog also when when you do DNA testing, we take it for granted that we can engineer things in and out of our offspring or our living biological world around us. That wasn't always the case. Everybody in the 90s might remember the Human Genome Project.
Sure. You talk about that in a few of your interviews.
Because we came together as a world to say...
And that's a precursor, right, for what we're talking about.
It's one of the things. Now, there is no doubt that the power and the speed and the processing of what we're talking about here, whether it is, AI that is generative or otherwise, is the swiftest and most quickly evolving technology that our species has ever created. It is the most iterative thing. It has already soaked up the knowledge and all of the artifacts of our species ever.
Yeah.
So in that sense, in the sense of scale, it is probably unlike anything and will cause changes unlike anything that we've seen, and maybe even unlike anything that we can, definitely unlike anything that we can understand, which means that it is our duty to think very, very deliberately about what the outcomes of these technologies are and to establish frameworks around them.
And do you think that we can see the 360 of that? Or are there areas that are still not seen by us? I mean, can it evolve in ways that we can't predict?
For sure, because it's designed to do that. It's designed to be faster and more comprehensive than human or all humans. That's its job.
Yeah.
That's why we have it. That's why we're banking on the fact that it's going to solve diseases. It's going to create, this new world order of, but what is that world? And I think that that's where we have to take this moment to really think about the questions that religions have been prompting us to ask and our cultures have been prompting us to ask since the beginning of time, which is, who are we? What's our purpose?
Do you feel, and this is, I think, a gut question for you, with all that you've learned and all that you're working in and the different spaces you're working in your gut, do you feel it's doable to harness this and make it work for us as opposed to the other way around? I mean, can we control this, or have we unleashed something that is really unknowable in its entirety?
Listen, the technology doesn't have a moral or a categorical imperative other than what we give it. So it's not about harnessing the technology. It's about harnessing the interests that develop the technology. And that is very doable. And not only is it very doable, I think it is a mandate. We must. And I think that it comes down to, again, those market infrastructures. We have to do that if we want to design the outcome that we want to see. Technology won't care what you tell it to do. It doesn't feel good or bad. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't care. The question is, what about the people building the technology?
Listening to you now, my background is as a student of global affairs, global politics, international relations. That's my academic background. And I wonder whether, and it's just something I thought about now while you're talking, whether countries are approaching relations with each other all wrong. Whether the focus should no longer be on antiquated issues of nuclear, economic superpowers versus another superpower. Should we be worrying about the race for AI? I mean, I know that people are thinking about it, but it's
Yes.
certainly not at the forefront of people's worries yet.
So I have the honor of working, we submitted a policy brief on to Task Force 5 for the G20, where we talk about data frameworks that, to your point, I think that we all know that ability to have compute, the ability to have the basics to have a language model are resources, physical infrastructure and resources that much of the world does not have. So, we create sort of frameworks about what to do and how to compete and how regulators or institutions or nations might find themselves viable in this period where open source hasn't taken off at sort of scale yet, where things are still very expensive in terms of resources. What do you do if you don't have the resources and you have a nation to govern, right?
Sure. Which is the case in the Middle East, in a lot of countries, in Africa.
It's the case in most of the world. Even, I will say, in resource-rich places, in the United States, we have a lot of space. We have a lot of push for data center. It is a very energy-intensive process, and I would say that even on that scale, you have to say, should we? Is this the best use of those resources, or should we be pushing for, more efficient resources, which you will see, and that's a big hypothesis, is the push to nuclear energy or the push to sort of more efficient sources of these resources will become paramount and tantamount, and then their use will become smaller. Do you need these really expensive chips and these really technical chips to do this? Are there other places, maybe in waves of, maybe in radio waves or in Bluetooth networks, are there places where you might be able to cram, some efficiency in there? And that will happen. What do you do if you don't have that? And that is a very and I would argue that all of those other, ways that we interact in the physical world become more important. Your nuclear standing, your resources standing, your geopolitical, your geographical positioning in the world.
But you have countries around the globe, the global south, I'm thinking specifically of, that, were already leapfrogging from an analog world to a digital world.
Right.
And we're making a lot of progress in that. What do they do now? Do they keep going, or do they think, okay, I have to pause on that, or I need to accelerate that process so I can quickly get into the next revolution that's coming?
Right. So a few things. I love the analog world.
Yeah, me too.
I'm holding out.
Me too.
I just recently stopped a texting. I have a texting moratorium. I was like, I want to hear your voice or see your face. I will happily do anything if I can have some human connection.
Yeah. But that might also be a product of your work.
It probably, because I spend so much time.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that the world will maybe return to that. And I think that we will become a little bit more physical. I think the next generation is probably going to.
So it's trad life as opposed to trad wife.
I think right. That's right. Oh, I like that.
So that's what we're
I'm going to use that.
Yeah,
I like that. I love that. I think that it's a trend. You sort of already see it. I think that you will have that.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think that we are going to have to peel back some of these large legacy systems that we're already building when we find that the technology will iterate so quickly that it will make them redundant.
What do you mean by legacy?
I think you're building data centers already that will probably
become obsolete
pretty quickly relative to the amount of investment in terms of infrastructure and resources that are being put around it. Because I don't think that they'll make sense for some of the technology that will come. How do we know that? Because we already see humans being really clever, right? With their tools, and they're turning their tools into toys and kind of playing around with them. And to the point earlier about what do you do if you're a nation or a community that doesn't have those resources? You hack it.
Yeah.
Anybody, any Egyptian knows how to work around something, right?
And the global south is good at that too.
And anybody in Brooklyn knows there's a workaround. And so I think that we already see, we all saw the open source model that came out of China and how it pushed the system. I'm really bullish on people in tight spaces innovating. And I would harness that. Humans are very good at finding the most efficient way to preserve their self-interest.
And Egyptians are the stars at that. Absolutely.
I believe in that. I believe in that so much. That's right.
Definitely.
Got 100 million minds.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back after the break, Mona tells me about the idea behind the Bitcoin and Birkins community and some of the exciting work she's doing today. This episode is brought to you by EFG Hermes One, your one app for investment across more than 35 stock markets worldwide. With EFG Hermes One, you can buy and sell orders in real time for immediate execution across multiple global markets. You can keep track of your favorite stocks by creating and customizing multiple watch lists and make informed investment decisions with their advanced technical analysis tools to study market trends and investor behavior. So supercharge your financial journey and download the EFG Hermes One app on the Apple App Store and on Google Play and start investing today. Welcome back. You're listening to part 2 of my conversation with technology ethicist Dr. Mona Hamdy. At what point did you begin Anomaly, which is your company? I want to talk about that.
Yes.
Because that's like your business hat comes on with Anomaly.
That's my business hat. Yeah. So that happens in 2023.
Okay.
I started Anomaly in 2023 after there was like a crypto cycle that happened, and I realized that people were asking me for a lot of advice, and I wanted to work on some different projects or different a few friends were starting some tech. They were starting some companies and they wanted me to advise them or they wanted me to help build. And I didn't have the ability or kind of the appetite. Ooh, 22. 22 was a hard year for anybody in that market. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm just going to become a monk and go live in a library. And so
is this when we can talk about Bitcoin and Birkins?
Yes.
Is that the same? I love this.
You love that? We can talk about
Bitcoins and Birkins Brigade. I just love this.
So
tell me that's more crypto than Anomaly.
It's more investing. Well, yeah, that's like ongoing. So that's Mahateba and Miriam Masalina.
It's such a great word name.
Because by this time, I've had a few things have happened by this time. I've now started an RIA fund, watched it become compliant, watched the market melt down a bunch of times. And through this process, I'm coming back to the region and meeting investors and meeting women investors and meeting people who don't invest. And remember, I've had this really strong sense that like if you to change a people, you have to change their economics and you have to change their economic position.
And you can't only look at men.
And you can't only look at men. And nobody really ever does, except maybe the Western investors who come to our part of the world. They're only looking at the guys. But
and we all know that women are the backbone of our societies here.
I mean, we are. So this project comes to be, and the name is because when I meet Miriam Musalli in Jeddah in 2012,
right,
she's investing in Birkins and I'm investing in Bitcoin.
So she's investing in Birkins as an asset.
Yeah, she's like, we go to El Orla and she's like wearing a Chanel cape and I'm wearing like my REI gear or whatever, right? Like we are different humans, but we
both attract.
Yeah, exactly. We turn out okay. And so every once in a while, she's going to kill me. Sorry, Miriam. It's the truth. So that project kind of comes out to say, more than it being about, a woman investor, it's about the fact that there are new ways to find value in something and that there are new ways to invest and that there are ways to empower a community that maybe we are not exposed to yet. And this sort of becomes my passion, is that I see really clearly this like new tech, and I see really clearly these new pools of like capital and these new connections to be made, and it's just really hard to get them together.
And what is happening now with regards to the Bitcoin and Birkin idea?
Right.
How much work are you doing with women in the region to encourage investment from them?
Or to them.
Or to them.
Yes. So this is where I am today in 2025. So that project is, we are very, very lucky. I'm very lucky that I get to be, linked up with Miriam and with Mahataiba, who was the Arabic. I don't know if anybody's into like Shark Tank or Shark Tank.
This is in the Saudi Shark Tank.
This is the Saudi Shark Tank. And so I'm very lucky that I get to really examine the modern world of investing alongside her with, new technologies, new industries, new opportunities to invest in, and new stories to be told from our part of the world and take them outside.
And do you do that through Anomaly, or is that a separate entity?
I do that through Anomaly, which is a technological solutions platform that's growing.
Yes.
But I really do that because I have the privilege of being the managing director and partner of iConnections Middle East. And it is a tech platform and a series of convenings, of gatherings that very efficiently match managers and allocators.
So when we spoke in our intro call, I thought of it being like a dating app for businesses or individuals, right?
It is.
So you're in a conference hall and you can connect.
The founder, Ron Biscardi, he always says that people always ask, it's like Tinder for capital.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we connect capital, and that's what we do. It is a very efficient way. It's a by invitation only, pre-screened, very efficient capital connection convening. Lots of C's there, but that's what it is. And so what was really interesting to me in my work with the founder was that the tech platform was very socially sticky.
Yes.
People were doing something with the app that I've never seen them do before, ever, actually. They were using the conference app after the conference was over. And that fascinated me.
Because all their data points were on there.
Because the level of onboarding for this particular is very niche for a certain segment of finance. But what we do there very well is particularly tailor every aspect of that experience for that person.
I see.
And so they found it really useful.
So it's a completely individualized app.
Oh, yeah. And like the onboarding process is very, very, very intense. It's very much suited so that it can conform to you. And what I was finding that was bonkers was that people were using it after, which never happens.
Wow.
I never use an app after I needed that thing. Like you don't use the Disney app after you're not at Disney. You don't use the meeting app. Sometimes it doesn't even work. This one, it just allowed people to make deals. It allowed them to increase their relationships, which I love. I love tech and humans. And it was for these people, for these investors, they were making deals and it was really efficient.
And the conference the Miami one has been running for how long?
This is the 6th year.
And your involvement is from the very beginning of that?
No, my involvement started 3 years ago. I started working on the tech platform with the founder. And at that time, because I've got this because we have these great investors and we have these great investable opportunities in the Arab world, where are they?
So for you, the interest in partnering with this organization was always to open up the Middle East.
My chip, my MO in everything that I do is here. It is here. It is to preserve a bit of what I got from this part of the world forever and to share that with the generations that we don't even know yet.
So you're officially launching this in September?
We are. We decided that we are launching our Middle East operations and we are launching our HQ and our hubs here in the Middle East. And so
this is from Riyadh?
We're going to be based in Riyadh, yes.
And does that mean you'll be holding conferences in Riyadh?
I mean, the idea, we think so. Yeah. We'd like to host conferences everywhere.
Nice. Perfect. That's it. We're done. 1.5 hours.
Is that good? That was too long?
It was perfect.
Is it okay?
I love that. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Malak Fuad, and this episode was produced by Chirag Desai. You can watch full video episodes of the show on YouTube and on Spotify, as well as audio versions in Apple Podcasts and other podcast players. We'll continue the AI conversation next week, where we go back into our archives and pull together conversations we've had with different guests, including Mo Gaudat, actor Rami Youssef, and advertiser Tariq Noor.